dialogue on off camera.
And we're live. We're live.
All righty, here we are. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Noah Green, my man, Dewey Cooper. I go back further with Dewey Cooper. I think I go back 2005, 2006, like 15 years with this guy. Dewey, for those of you who don't know him, this is how I want to describe the dude. So if you're in the gym, if you're ever in an MMA gym or a boxing gym, and this dude is in there, you're going to hear him. You're going to hear him on a motivational level, on a barking level. It's a distinct voice. You got a perfect voice. By the way, Dewey, you should be doing music. There should be some famous rappers that have Dewey Cooper doing voiceovers or something, or a little part of the hook, because you got that voice. We're going to talk about that a little later. But so Dewey is... He's got, now this is what I love about you too, Dewey. You know, you when I first met you, you were fighting in K1, where the dudes are fighting 3 people in one night. You were like 80 pounds undersized. You were by far the smallest dude in the tournament with some of these just Goliaths. And that's where you stood out to me. That's where you made an impression. And what I love about you, you're coaching Francis Ngannou, you're coaching Kevin Lee, Keith Lee. You got some, you know, some super talented boxing talent. You're living this. But what I love about you is that with you, it's not just a motivational stick. You're a dude that if anybody puts on the video and watches Dewey Cooper fight, like you're so credible, you're so believable, because the video shows you're not asking the fighters to do anything that you wouldn't do. You're willing to fall down on your sword. You're willing to go through any fire out there. And so you're not just a guy that happens to have a great voice and happens to know the right motivational things to say. There's so much credibility. And I was telling Noah this when I described him, because Noah, you know, you and I go back 15 years. Noah, who's a blue belt, Renzo Gracie, and has done, you know, Noah's done very well in business, among other things. Very smart guy, our co-host. But I said to Noah, I said, the thing about Dewey is, I can't imagine, Dewey, a fighter talking back to you. Even if a fighter could kick your butt, there's fighters that could maybe look. Dewey's a little older. Some of these dudes know the MMA. The respect is, you command so much respect that I can't foresee even a guy that could probably kick your butt. I don't foresee them talking to you, you know, talking to you sideways, or I don't foresee that. I don't know. Have you ever had any? I guess, have you ever had any issues with fighters in terms of the respect thing?
No, because fighters, we all have the same type of relatable spirit, and I sweat with them and bleed with them every day, so they know that they respect me for how I work. I'm not just a guy barking orders. I run with them. I train with them. I spar with them. I sacrifice my actual body for them, and they're a lot younger than me. Some of them are much stronger than me, and I still spar with them and do whatever I can do to get them ready. So I've never had a fight that really disrespect me on a fighting level, because, hey, I will knuckle up. If that don't work, I got the heaters in the car anyway. So whatever level we get to, we're acclimated for that. But the guys know me. We work hard, and everyone respects a person with a real work ethic, and I think I win my fighters over that way.
You know, this is the thing about you. I've known you like 15 years, and this is a compliment. You ain't changed a damn bit. You look the same as when I saw you, and like you said, you are up early. You're holding mitts. I mean, any man who holds mitts for Francis Ngannou should get, like, that should be coach of the year right there. Like, coach of the year, just being able to tolerate having the shoulder structure, and even with the padding, just getting hit thousands of times by Francis Ngannou and holding mitts speaks volumes about your toughness, because I don't think many trainers can sign up for that. But you look the same as you did 15 years ago when I saw you. I think Jeff Mayweather, you were working with Jeff Mayweather, went to Jeff Mayweather's garage, and we did an interview there. I want to talk about Francis. Yeah.
Yeah. That my house is my garage, but Jeff was training me at my house. Yes. Yes.
There you go. So this is what I want. I want to talk about Francis in a second, but I want to go back to the K1 days, because a lot of people didn't see that. And at the time, your dad was dying, and it was one of my favorite stories that I've ever written. It was it really did tug at the heartstrings, because what made an impression on me, as I said earlier, is this guy's 190 pounds fighting guys 265, 280, 285. And by the way, you're not going to say it, but I will. A lot of those dudes look juiced. So they were like cartoonish, juiced up on who knows what. I was looking at you with the seeing eye test. I'm like, this dude ain't on nothing but skill and courage and bravery. So I went and interviewed you. I wanted to get your story. And at the time, your dad was dying at a hospital, and that was breaking your heart. And I remember you were tell us the story. Your dad was only able to do a few things to communicate with you. Your dad couldn't speak. Tell us a little bit about your dad and about the promises you made to them, and what it was like in the final weeks of your dad's life.
It was crazy. I had a boxing fight because I was boxing, top rank promotion / guilty boxing, and I was signed with K1. I had a boxing fight. I'll never forget it. I was the main event, so I was the last fight of the night. And as I do my ring walk, my parents always sat in my corner, like front row. And I'll never forget, I'm walking out and I looked over there and didn't see my mom and dad. And it freaked me out psychologically really quickly, because I'm like, damn, in my mind, what the fuck? They weren't there. Anyway, I ended up winning the boxing fight. And after the fight, I got the news that my dad had he had a stroke called the Pons stroke, PONS stroke, one of the most rare strokes there is. Takes all your motor skills, and basically you're a prisoner within your own body. It was very painful. So after I won the fight, I looked over there. My parents aren't there. I was a little upset about them not being there. I didn't know what happened. I didn't think something tragic like this had happened. I thought maybe the fight took too long. My dad wanted to go home. Remember, my dad was a Force Recon Marine, fought in Vietnam, 3 different tours, all kind of medals. He was a real serious dude. And he didn't like to be around crowds like that anyway, obnoxious drunk dudes talking shit. You know, my dad was a different type of guy. So in my mind, I thought they left because my dad couldn't tolerate the drunkenness and the people. So I was kind of upset, like, damn, I can't believe they left before my fight. I got the news, it shattered my heart. Anyway, he had a Pons stroke. He was in the hospital for about 3 months, and he couldn't move anything. All he could do was blink his eyelids. So we created language between each other. 1 blink is no, 2 blinks, yes. You know, all these sort of things. And it was a painful thing for me. Real quick, a story you don't know about. I went to the hospital every day for my dad, like any son would. I was training the crazy ass MMA fighter War Machine back then. I was the coach who turned War Machine pro. You know, too bad John, he's in prison right now. Sad for him, the way all that went down. But I know War Machine. I called him John. I know him very well. He had his first fight until one of his pro debut, and I'm the one who took him there. And I went to the hospital every day with my dad, and my dad stayed alive until the day I left. I told him I was going to Mexico for a fight. I'll be back the next day. It broke my heart. I found out when I was in Mexico after War Machine won his professional debut that my dad had just passed away. And we ran from the event. War Machine, Eric Del Ferrio, who has famous Alliance Gym in San Diego now, we ran to the border, running through cars on the freeway to get me to the border, and jumped on a plane from San Diego back to Vegas to be with my family. And right after that, of course, I had my fight with Gary Goodrich coming up like 2 weeks away. So the funeral arrangements, all that stuff happened. I had my dad's funeral on Thursday and flew back the next day for the weigh-in. Gary Goodrich fight in K1. And I wasn't going to do the fight. I was really mentally distraught and just really weird and like a weird place psychologically. But my mom told me, your dad doesn't want you to not fight. He knows it's in your heart. He knows it's what you love to do. He supports it. So do not miss the fight just because of him. He's in heaven watching down, praying for you. You know, all the stuff that a mom would say. But I actually buried my dad on Thursday, flew back from Houston, Texas, Friday morning, did the weigh-in, and fought Saturday night against Gary Goodrich in a fight where I beat him every round. I don't know what the other judges were seeing, but that's a whole nother story. But it was hard for me. The whole fight was like, I call myself the Black Cobra because I get into a mind state where I'm not this person. Black Cobra fought, but Dewey wasn't there at all. I was still heartbroken about my father. And it was the weirdest fight ever. I fought a good fight. I looked good in the fight, but it was the first time I ever fought when I felt like I wasn't there. I was completely numb. I just wasn't there. Dewey wasn't there, but the Cobra was somehow able to fight that night. It was a crazy experience.
Dewey, when you work with fighters and they have stuff that's going on outside of the cage, outside of the gym, real life stuff, girlfriend breakups, divorces, whatever they're dealing with, family stuff, how do you try to get that fighter centered? Because people always have stuff going on outside. They have the same problems in life that we do. What do you tell the fighter? How do you coach them so that they can focus in that environment and separate all of the, the things that are going on outside that might be distractions? How do you keep the fighter focused so that they can stay focused on their craft instead of distracted by outside stuff?
I had a long fight career myself, so I've been through it all. Split up with girlfriend, fought the next day. My dad passing away, my mom years later passing away, fighting after that. I've been through all the adversities and sadness of life and maintained a legitimate winning fighting career. What I tell people is very simple. When we fight, we have to tap into something bigger than us. We have to tap into something bigger than Francis Ngannou, bigger than Kevin Lee, bigger than Dewey Cooper. We have to tap into something else. The true essence of us, not this physical housing that people love or hate. And it's very simple. I call mine Black Cobra. Black Cobra is free of emotions. He's free of stress. He's free of pain. He's free of everything that we value and we weigh on this earth. Basically what I'm saying, you have to tap into your soul, your true calling. And if you tap into that, it doesn't matter if your mom passes, your dad passes, your girlfriend cheated on you with your best friend. When it's time, when you tap into that, everything gets silent and numb. And that's my secret to going through the adversity I went through, was able to fight and never do drugs and never turn to an alcoholic or even, by the way, I don't smoke at all. Nothing but I smoke weed. It's legal now, but I never needed any chemical to take me to that euphoric, stationary place that evens you. So I tell my fighters that I had guys go through adversity, and I just tell them, man, listen, tap into that. None of this shit really matters anyway. It's what's inside of us that I happen to call mine Black Cobra. Francis happen to call his the Predator. Kevin Lee happens to call his the Motown Phenom. When you lock into that, man, it's unlimited the things you can accomplish and do.
Where, the interesting thing about you, everybody has a different style, every coach. Yours is very, you're pumping yourself up, you're pumping them up. Tell us about your style of coaching, because it's a very, again, to me, it seems like we're going to outwork them, right? Whoever that is, we're going to outwork them. We're going to out-desire them. You're a natural motivator, but tell us about that style, because some people might think that that's too much. It might be too much for them, where the guy, you're hitting the mitts and there's a lot, you're there and it's like, it's almost like Tony Robbins holding the damn mitts. It's like, damn, Tony Robbins is holding the mitts today, right? Like, tell us about your style and tell me some stories about that. Have you ever gotten any feedback? Like, you know, what's the feedback from the athletes in terms of that style?
Well, earlier you mentioned Francis Ngannou holding pads for him, and yeah,
Yep.
it is painful, but everything comes full circle. When Dewey Cooper can't hold pads for Ngannou. It's too fucking painful. But Black Kobra can. I flip into that Black Kobra mode, and Francis has cracked my chest plate before. He separated my rib, kicking me and knee me to the body, and I still just keep going. Because when I'm in Black Kobra mode, I can just do it. It's crazy. I go home and I'm hurting bad. But at that moment, I can honestly just do it. And that's what I do every day. I've been tapping into Black Cobra since I started fighting as a little kid, 9, 10 years old. So it's something that's real tangible. I actually go numb. And real fast about Francis Ngannou, it's painful holding pads for him, but fight week is a freaking nightmare because remember, I'm the guy that has to spar with him. We literally spar every day up to the weigh-in. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, scoring 3 rounds, 3 5-minute rounds with this monster. And Francis hits and kicks hard, even when he's going easy. I'm the guy get hit by that monster. Fight week is a nightmare. Everything else is pretty acceptable.
You know,
But
you would be a great guy to mic up. You know how in the NFL they mic up? Like if I could only pick one trainer to mic up, right? You would be the guy that I would be like, let's mic him. I mean, you're already mic'd, but that's number one. You're maybe the most quotable, and you just come up with stuff. You don't even, you just come like on the fly. You just come up with like, you know, a quotable whatever, like a Deweyism, a Cooperism.
yeah,
Yes. Let me ask you this, though, Dewey. What makes it worse, since you're sacrificing your body, particularly for a guy who might hit harder than any UFC heavyweight has ever hit? He might be the hardest puncher and striker, the kicks and everything. We haven't really seen that. You're the guy holding the pads for that. What makes it worth it for you? Because a lot of people are interested in their own success. I've seen you fight. You're as brave of a fighter as anybody I've seen. I've seen what you'll go through. You are extremely correct in a sport of alphas and people that have a high pain threshold. You're up there in the top 1%. So I know how far you'll go for Dewey, for the Black Cobra, for that code. What makes it worth it? A lot of people aren't as interested in other people's success. You are. What makes it worth it to be up, going to Mount Charleston with them running at 5 a.m.? What makes it worth it to take that pounding with Ngannou? Because even though I'm sure you're doing well financially, you could make all the money you're making doing other things. You're doing it. I know it's for pure reasons. It's not for the money. It's not for the fame. This is who you are. What makes it worth it to live this lifestyle, to invest so much in them, in the fighters, and take that pounding on your body?
What makes it worth it, honestly, is just the fighter appreciating that I help improve them as a martial artist and hopefully as a man. Remember, I don't drink alcohol or any of that. After fights, there's nothing wrong with any of that. After fights, guys are celebrating and all of that, and I just won't drink with them. I'll do like lemon, pineapple juice or cranberry juice, and I tell them, you know, I told you guys I don't drink. So if I get drunk with you after the fight, are you gonna respect me deep down inside in that place where only you can hear? We cannot be walking contradictions. We have to live a real pure life. And so when I'm with a fighter, if I can help train them and help improve them, and they feel at the end of the day when it's all said and done, man, Dewey helped me out. Dewey really was a necessary thing for me to catapult myself to where I ended up. That's what it's about for me. People don't realize how hard we work and the things we do. And as long as a fighter loves what I bring to the table, hey, That's the reward I need, because I've won championships. I got inducted in the Masters Martial Arts Hall of Fame in 2008. I've had groupies and my DM blown up before. I've traveled the world. I don't care about any of that. I want the guys like Kevin Lee, Francis Ngannou, Keith Lee, everybody I got, Timmy Kwamba, Broxton Sanjuro, Louis, Carlos Takum, Jesse Vargas, Jessica Rakosi, all these type of people, Julia Budd, all these type of people. I want them to appreciate my the jewels I gave them, what I did to help them become better people, and not just fighting, every aspect, living a clean life, being a gracious person, and being a great parent also. I really hope
you are a great parent. I've seen your daughter Shaolin, amazing. She's an amazing talent. She's amazing talent. I mean, with basketball, with her martial arts, with her singing. What makes, what's that?
She's a straight A student at Gorman High School. You know what I mean? But the word I was looking for, influence. I want the fighters to appreciate the influence I had on them in a positive light.
Dewey, what makes you and Francis? He's a guy, he's a hot commodity. Maybe every coach would love to work with him. What makes you want, Eric Nixick over there at Extreme Couture, who I know well, good guy, Randy Couture, well, go back with him. What makes you and Francis, what makes you guys gel and makes you guys a good fit for his striking?
Because Francis started off with dreams to be a boxer. Even though I'm a kickboxer, I had 25 professional boxing fights. I was trained with by the Mayweathers over 20 years with Jeff Mayweather. During that time, I trained with Roger Mayweather. I trained with Floyd Mayweather Sr. So I have a real boxing background. I'm not just some dude emulating Mayweather mitts. I know the method behind the madness. I know the science behind it. I know the reasoning behind the high frequency mitt style. That's number one. So I have more of a stronger boxing background than most coaches in MMA or even most coaches in kickboxing. So I've kickboxed my whole life. I'm a kickboxer who knows real boxing. So that took care of two of the components for Francis right there. Having a guy with a boxing background and a real kickboxing background who can equate it to MMA striking. And of course I can take the pain and the brutality of training Francis Ngannou. I'm not one of these coaches to tell you to punch easier. No matter how hard you punch, I want you to punch harder. No matter how hard you kick, I want you to kick harder. I don't even tell Francis to take it easy. We explode. He really, I never limit his power or limit how hard he hits the kicks. Hard as he can do it, I'm like, do it. Because you hurt me. As long as you hit your opponent like that, I'm happy.
How do you keep this? Always fascinated me. I've lived in Vegas for 18 years, and it always fascinates me, right? The mecca of the fight world for where to hold the fights, right? Before 2020's turned the world on its head. But before 2020, Las Vegas is the mecca. There's a ton of fighters, boxers, MMA, jiu-jitsu there. And yet you can go 15, 20 miles and get in all the trouble you want at any hour of the day. And it's fascinating. You have these elite fighters and combat sports athletes, trying to live a Spartan code, right? Live clean, live pure, train hard, be focused. But there's trouble waiting for you 10 miles, 12 miles, a few clicks away. And so it can make it a lot more challenging for you. How do you handle the athletes? They come from all over the world to train in Vegas. You get to work with them. What do you tell them about avoiding that temptation of Vegas and the Vegas Strip and all that stuff, and to keep them on track?
I let them know that there's a lot of things out there, a lot of distractions. My name is Dewey. It starts with a D. So I have my Dewey's D's, 6 D's to take you to your destiny. And that's dedication, determination, discipline, devotion, desire, and drive. If you exercise those D's, you will accomplish your goals. You will reach the pinnacle where you want to reach. If you don't, there's another D, and you used it earlier, distraction. Distractions are parasitic to Dewey's 6 D's to destiny. And I talk to them about that and tell them, if you exercise those 6 D's, you're going to be okay. Also, discipline is a very important factor. Frank, without discipline, you could be the most awesome dude in the world, and at some point, the dynasty will crumble. John Jones is the only guy I could think of in MMA who's had his hardships and let distractions take over and still was able to sustain, maintain, and stay great. But we always have an exception in every rule. One person out of 2 million don't mean much. So you have to stay clear of distractions. And the number one way to stay clear of distractions is having discipline. And that's a very important characteristic and attribute that any great fighter should and must have.
Let's take the case of Francis Ngannou. What he lost the first fight, Stipe Miocic has surprised me because he's been, a guy who was playing baseball, and he's been, he's a very sharp striker. He's got the wrestling background. He's tough. He's got a great mindset. Francis came up short in that first one. What adjustments, without giving everything away, but it looks like there's a collision course there between Stipe, Francis, rematch. Probably a lot of people are going to like Francis. How has Francis evolved, and what does he have to do to beat Miocic and become champion?
Well, first of all, Stipe is awesome. It's a very simple answer for that topic, for that question. Experience. That's all it was. Stipe is a well-rounded, great heavyweight MMA fighter. That's why he's the champ with the most title defenses. But that night came down to experience. And this upcoming fight, and they are fighting, is going to come down to experience, but it's going to be the opposite side of the coin. Francis now having the proper experience. That's going to be the difference.
What is, in terms of how much I'm a guy that believes in natural talent combined with the mindset, combined with the work ethic. But I do believe, like, some people come in the gym and, like, you got a guy like Francis, some of the power and things, you just can't teach some of the gifts. But you also, he's got to do the work. He's got to have the mindset. He's got to be coachable. You can't run. You can't jog for him. He's got to stay, avoid the distractions. So a ton of credit. But tell me a little bit about how, the making of a champion. What makes a champion? How much of it can an elite champion, a UFC champion, how much of it is natural talent? How much of it is work ethic? How much of it is coachability? What goes into the making of a champion to you?
Hey Frank, let me pop in real quick. I think Dewey's resetting real quick. So stand by real quick while he rejoins.
Sure. It's fascinating to hear about the holding the mitts, and people don't think about that,
Yeah.
People don't think about a guy, the damage, and there aren't many. The combination of Dewey's knowledge combined with his durability and his ability and his willingness to take that punishment, there probably aren't 5 or 10 people on the planet that could hold mitts capably for Ngannou and take that punishment, there probably aren't 5 or 10 people on the planet. Dewey's like the outlier of outliers. Love his energy. Amazing.
All right. Well, I'm just checking his setting. He may have lost his connection there. So stand by, Frank, if you want to talk a little bit about his record. I have not, me. I am just catching up to the fight sports game and learning as much as I can. Maybe you could talk about his style of kickboxing and how that works so well with with like a fighter like Dewey.
Well, I think one thing that Dewey, a lot of people. So when you come from the Mayweather tree, when you think of boxing in the last 30, 40 years, I mean, if you had to have a royal family, it's going to be the Mayweather family. A lot of people, they see Floyd Mayweather, they don't realize that he's the son of Floyd Sr. Floyd Sr. was a damn good fighter. He was an elite fighter. Roger Mayweather was a champion, an elite fighter. These guys fought some of the biggest names in the heyday of boxing. I mean, they are. Floyd Mayweather was boxing since he was 2. So for Dewey was very close to the Mayweathers, and Jeff Mayweather is a very good coach in his own right. So Dewey is right there picking up striking from the best of the best. He's learning the art, the sweet science, which is why I think he could fight these guys that were 60, 65, 70, 80 pounds heavier than him. A lot of those guys jacked on some substance. You wonder how some of those guys pass the test, but so Dewey, I actually don't think that Dewey gets the notoriety. I mean, he's starting to get it now. He's got his own podcast. He's, when Francis wins, I think he'll get it. I don't think that that's his why. That's not his premier purpose. He's not like, look at me. He's not trying to steal the thunder or the stage from his fighters. But this is a guy that probably deserves to be, definitely deserves to have more notoriety than he has, because he's been, he's worked with so many. And the thing I like about him too is he's a one-of-a-kind character. He used to always be in Drysdale. Him and Robert Drysdale, who gave me my black belt, they have been a tandem for a lot of fighters, like Jimmy Spicuzza, who fought in World Series of Fighting, who's a very tough-as-nails fighter. They both worked with Jimmy Spicuzza. But a lot of people don't understand how much of a sacrifice it is to coach. These are not look at me kind of people. They are sacrificial. They're sacrificing their body. They're sacrificing their time. They're sacrificing time away from their wife, from their kids, from their significant other. It's kind of like being a rock star. It's not as glamorous up close as it looks, right? It's not when you get into the drudgery of travel, of fight week, and they've got to be a lot of things. A great coach has to be a psychologist. They have to be a good listener. They have to know the right buttons to push. They have to know their fighter. They have to be great strategists, because a lot of times the fighters, there's some really smart fighters out there like Dom Cruz or Randy Couture who can sort of devise a lot of the strategy themselves. But then most fighters are not that way. So they're relying on the strategy that's devised by like a Dewey or their coaches. The coaches are entrusted to come up with the winning game plan, to look at the video and say, this is how we're going to exploit your opponent. Notice that when your opponent does whatever, they step here or they do this or they telepath their punch by doing this. And that's what somebody like Dewey does. I mean, you got to wear a lot of hats. And this guy's been at it a long time. That's why I'm so excited to have him on.
You know what? I'm going to email him our podcast link real quick. If you'll just keep providing some information, some background, I'm going to flip over to another screen and email him our link. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah. So for anybody still watching, when you're a fighter, or you're a combat sports athlete, and any athlete, when things happen, right, a death, a breakup, whatever, you can't just go to pieces. It takes a lot of motivation to be disciplined, to live this Spartan lifestyle. And, we have hearts. Sometimes it can be hard to get out of bed. Sometimes you're distracted. I remember when I went through my divorce, and when that meant that I wasn't going to be staying in the same house with my son every day, and there was split custody. And so it's hard. And I remember when it was very hard, someone I loved very much got sick. And I was devastated. And the one place that I had a sanctuary was the mat. I could go on those mats. That was the one place where I could turn off the world. Things didn't feel heavy. I could get rid of the distractions. And so in the 90 minutes or the 2 hours on the mat, I was able to tune that out. Some people aren't. To me, what I've seen psychologically, one of the hardest things for fighters, when someone dies on them, usually fight better. When there's a breakup, a divorce, a girlfriend leaves them, wife leaves them, those are, from my experience, anecdotally, very hard on fighters. They normally don't fight as well. If someone dies, a coach, a loved one, a lot of times the fighter is able to channel that, and they almost dedicate the fight to their loved one. They just seem to have even more incentive. So that's always been an interesting thing when I was, a journalist, and even as an athlete myself. You go through life things. I went through periods where just didn't have money, and so I was moving heaven and earth just to go to a tournament in California for jiu-jitsu. It's like money was so tight. I'm like, how am I going to come up with the $100 or $120 to register for the tournament? And then, you got your gas money, you got a rental car, you got whatever. Like, how are you going to? And it's just amazing. Sometimes you have to move heaven and earth. Some athletes are moving heaven and earth just to go to a tournament because financially it's not feasible, or they don't have the money, or they don't have a sponsor.
Yeah.
But you love it so much. This is the thing I think that's fascinating about the combat sports are the sacrifices that we sign up for, the consent to discipline, like how, because the truth is, for a lot of us, and you and I know each other, Noah, and this phenomenon, there's some kind of documentary coming up called After the Cage, and Jason Reinhart, who was a former UFC fighter, who was a friend, is going to be featured in that. And I don't know who else. They're interviewing different athletes who fought in the cage, and then they're following them. And, I guess to my knowledge, some of them might have drug addiction. Some of them might have, they're kind of lost, just like some professional athletes in other sports. Like, well, what do I do? They're not an athlete anymore. Maybe they're not making as much money. Where can you find that thrill, that aliveness? What's going to replace that? What's going to replace the thrill of victory, the hunt of victory? What's going to replace it? I went through the same thing because I perform my best when there's an event, when there's a deadline, when there's a bunch of us working together and making those sacrifices and discipline. I love that. But when you're not in that ecosystem, right? You don't have to be there at 10 a.m. You don't have a tournament coming up. It can be a lot harder for us to arrange and organize our life. That's the beauty of, if you're a jiu-jitsu athlete and you look at IBJJF or NAGA or whatever, or Fight to Win, the dates. And so it sort of motivates you to sacrifice, to be disciplined. There's a date. So I would say to anybody out there, for motivation, if you don't have a deadline, like some motivator, you just have a wish. You don't have, it's not even a goal. It's just a wish. It's a butterfly that's going to up and fly away. You got nothing. You want to make people out there. It's January 2021. It's a new year. You want to bring out the best in you. You need dates. You need events and dates and deadlines. Not just a journal, not just eat healthier, not just work out more, but not just get better sleep. But we need to look at a calendar and say, here are some events, here are some dates, here are deadlines. I have to have this done by then. I have to be prepared for this by then. I'm competing in this tournament by then. And when we have that, that a lot of times gives us the incentive to do the jogging, to do the training, to go to the gym, to eat healthy. When we don't have a final exam or a date or a deadline or an event, then a lot of us are not going to be accountable and we're not going to be as motivated. We need deadlines. We need dates. We need events. So that's something that I would impress. The one thing that, going back to Dewey Cooper, Dewey, what stands out to me as a guy who sang his whole life and a guy who has a good voice and likes voice and pays attention to voice, his voice is part of his magic. He has a voice unlike any other. It's a distinctive voice, and the vibration of that voice motivates a lot of people. So he is, there's coaches that are more quiet and their motivational is more subtle, or the motivational is a few words here and there, or they're great listeners. Dewey has a great voice and he uses it a lot. Now, some fighters might say, hey, he's too ramped up, or it's too much. Maybe there's a fighter out there that would say that, but you're never going to walk into a class. If you have 20 fighters in there, you're never going to lack motivation with that guy in the room. Yeah. You're never going to be like, I'm bored, I'm not motivated today. If you ain't motivated today, that guy is going to be so go, go, go. He's going to put the energy in the room. You're going to be motivated. And the truth is that a lot of people need that. Everybody makes the assumption that all high-level athletes are deeply motivated, and that's actually not true. There are type A, super motivated Dominic Cruzes and Randy Couture's, and there's a spectrum there. There are some fighters that yes, they're more motivated than the general public, and they sign up for the hard work, but there's varying degrees, just like anything else. Everybody's not highly motivated every day. Michael Chandler is, Randy Couture is, but there's differing degrees of motivation. This guy comes every day. Dewey comes every day. I've never seen him be anything less than high energy every day. And that's very draining. Most people can't sustain that, right? Most people can't be highly motivated, like crazy high motivated, probably 5 days of their life, right? Most people, Dewey has been like that for years and years. Most people will never spend 5 days of their life as motivated as that guy's been for the past 15, 20 years. Wrap our brain around that, right? And so when I hear people say, and people that I trust and I respect, and they're black belts and they're Navy SEALs, but I hear them say, it's not motivation, it's discipline. And Dewey talked about discipline too. I view them as brother, sister. I don't think there's any discipline without motivation. I call it the motivation to be disciplined. So I don't make this distinction that some make where it's discipline. No, it's to have the discipline. You have to have the motivation to be disciplined. You have to have the psychological.
That's just true.
Or the why. So for people to take motivation out of the equation, I don't buy that. Motivation is very important. The problem with motivation for most people is that motivation will wane, right? It will ebb and flow, and it will wane. With someone like Dewey or Randy Couture or Michael Chandler, there is no drop off in motivation. They are motivated day in, day out. They're disciplined day in, day out. Their why is super strong. So I think a lot of people, when I hear like Jocko Willink, who I respect, and I expect to be on Jocko Willink's podcast one day, and I respect Jocko, I like him, I like what he does. Him and I disagree on this motivation, discipline distinction. Jocko is just like, no, it's discipline, motivation's overrated, it's not motivation. But the thing is, the most motivated, there he is. What up, Dewey?
Jesus Christ, man. Sorry. I don't know what the hell happened.
Yeah.
Holy smokes, man. I never do this on my phone. And the battery died. Everyone's been calling me and texting me and stuff. The battery died.
It's good. It's good to have friends.
Dewey, let me finish this thought really quick, and I'm going to tie you into this. So I was talking about the difference between motivation and discipline, right? And I was talking about how you come every day for 15, 20 years. There is no off day. I've never seen you have an off day, right? I've said to Noah while you were off camera, I'm like, most people in their life they won't have 5 days of their life, 5 days total, where they're as motivated as you are. You've been like 15, 20 years, like highly motivated every day. It's amazing to see. And anyway, I went down and I was saying, you know, for me, discipline requires motivation, because a lot of people right now are just talking about discipline, and they don't put motivation in there. And I view you as a motivator among other things. I do view you as a very motivational guy. Obviously, the discipline is huge. You're very disciplined, but I view you as very motivated. And I think, Noah, this is what I wanted to do to tie this together. I think motivation is a key to discipline. And when people aren't disciplined, when people aren't motivated, it's because their why is weak. Their reason for doing it is weak. When the why is weak, then the motivation and the discipline to fire that are weak. So you show me somebody who's not motivated, and I'll just show you somebody who doesn't have a strong why, who doesn't have a strong sense of who they are, who doesn't have a sense of purpose. And then you have a guy like this, like Dewey. Dewey knows who he is, what he's about, what his code is, where he's going, and he knows why I'm doing this. Now, Dewey, now that you're back, and I thank you so much for coming back, tell us a little bit about your why. I mean, you got into it a little bit, but digging a little deeper into your why. You could have chose, you're a super bright guy, good looking guy. You look as young as the first day I saw you. You're aging like me. You could have done a lot of other things. Why is this the thing? Why is the juice worth the squeeze here? Why is it worth it? This life, it's a hard life. Why is this worth it? What makes this worth it for you? I mean, what is your why? What's fueling that?
Yeah, well, I think, like we're all born with a certain purpose. And if we're not doing our purpose, we are not fulfilled no matter how successful you are. And that's why there's so many unhappy people on this planet, because they aren't doing their purpose. You talked about motivation when guys have off days, and if they're not, doing what they're supposed to do, if they're not motivated, it's not really in their heart. But more than motivation, you need inspiration, and you have to have aspiration also. A long time ago, I aspired to be a great fighter, because I looked up to Peter Cunningham and Rob Kaman and guys like this, Ernesto Hoost, Muhammad Ali. So I aspired to be like those guys, especially Peter Cunningham. I'm not gonna lie, Peter Cunningham was my all-time favorite. And through that aspiration, I got inspired. And through that inspiration, that's what gave me the motivation. And that motivation has never left me since I was 9 years old. The problem is with us human beings, we're so limited. We live to be 100 if we're lucky, and we don't come to terms with that. So we're living an unfulfilled life just because we know our demise is near at any moment. Unfortunately, too many of us view it that way. I view it like this is a blessing. I'm blessed to be having this meeting with you guys in this interview. And I go to every day with that type of inspiration. No matter what, I could be sick, I could be damn near dying. I'm still going to train my guys hard. I'm still going to get inspired. I'm still going to work hard. Because guys, one thing about me, I'm not scripted. I'm unscripted. The only time I'm not really hyped as a coach is if my fighter is like lazy, bad body language, what I call, excuse the term, what I call punking out. You know what I mean? I don't like this sort of thing. So I get my energy when I'm training my guys. The harder they hit, the more energy they go. I just match that energy naturally. I'm not even trying to. I posted a video today on my Instagram, and I never seen the video. Someone sent it to me. it was from a few days ago, and I was training two guys in the Thai pads. I was just getting hyped because they were giving me good energy. It's not like it's a rehearsed thing. So, in order to stay motivated, what makes me me, the very fabric of me is just I was born, big family, youngest of 8 kids. I fought a lot. There was a lot of aggression, and in my household, there was nothing wrong with fighting. If you and your brother and sister had an argument, you guys would go toe to toe. It's not like we got our asses whipped for fighting. Fighting was just a way of life. But it makes sense. My dad was a Force Recon Marine. He believed in war. You know what I mean? So if you fought, it was no big deal. So my whole life, I grew up not being afraid to fight. Fighting was the answer when discussion and compromise could not be met. You fucking fist fought. Bottom line. And the winner had his way. I know it's a caveman way of being, but it was an absolute answer to basically every problem I ever had in my life. And once I started going around the world and getting, applause and people wanting an autograph back then, there was no camera phones to take a picture. It just confirmed the destiny I felt like I wanted to lead. And I'm still leading that destiny right now. And that's the answer. The answer, people just got to be true with themselves, make sure they're fulfilled in whatever they're doing. And if they're fulfilled, they're not going to have an off day, because it's beyond just how you feel. I may feel shitty now talking to you, but I'm still going to talk to you because we're talking about a topic that I love, fighting and athletes. And if we're talking about politics, I may not even have the same energy because I'm not that inspired by who's the president or what's going on with the BLM versus the dudes who raided the Capitol. You know what I mean? None of that shit really matters to me. It matters because we're Americans, but that's not something that I dream about, that I wish as a kid I'd be a part of. So if you're doing what truly fulfills you, Frank, we're never gonna have an off day because we love this shit too much. It's beyond us. It's beyond how we feel. How we feel is so subjective. I may feel like shit today and feel like $1 million tomorrow. Which was right? Was I $1 million or was I shit? Neither. It was just an emotion that made us feel that way. But when you feel fulfillment, it's something deep inside every follicle of you. You feel it deep down in what the Chinese call qi, and it moves you. It moves you beyond just everyday life. And that's the fulfillment that I search for every day. And I get it every day, man. Every day I get it. Every day I go to the gym. Every day I train. I get that same fulfillment I got at 9 years old when I started. And that's the beauty of martial arts and the beauty of being able to make a living through martial arts.
Now, Dewey, you, I know that Shaolin had went to like the Kung Fu school there. Some of the monks training her. You just mentioned the Chinese martial arts. Tell me a little bit about your relationship, because you have heavily dipped into some of the traditional martial arts, some of the Asian martial arts. That's also part of your experience and your perspective. Tell me about, some of the philosophies you've taken, some of the arts you've studied that are the Asian martial arts, some of the philosophies and how you've used those and incorporated those as a coach and an athlete.
Yes, well, I started, Muay Thai was actually my first art. But I also started training Chinese Kempo. When I first moved to Vegas from LA, I was strictly a Muay Thai practitioner. I've been doing, in LA, we had amateur smokers all the time. I was doing little amateur smokers. But I moved to Vegas. The first gym that I was training at was Eddie Flash Newman's gym. It was a kickboxing gym and a Kempo karate gym. And I got all the way up to my 3rd degree black belt with Eddie Flash Newman, doing straight Chinese Kempo. I did karate tournaments all over the country and all of that too. I was at I won Cecil Peoples' first invitational he had in Carson, California, like in the mid-90s. Stuff like that. By the way, that was the first time I ever met Peter Cunningham too, at Cecil Peoples' tournament. It was like a dream come true to me. So I've been to Japan. I trained with the Seitokai karate guys in Japan. That's one of the most famous karate gyms. Seitokai in Japan is like 100,000 karate members. I trained at the Shaolin Temple with the real Shaolin monks in Songshan, China, which was till today my favorite trip of all times. The day I die, the memories that have flashed through my mind will be my mom and dad. Probably the first time my dad whipped my ass, how scary it was. First time my mom kissed my face. First time my daughter Shaolin was born and I grabbed her hand. Probably my first championship, and definitely when I was at the Shaolin Temple. That was one of the most memorable days of my life. Training with the real monks, being in the quarters of the abbot Shi Lan Yu, talking to him hours about Buddhism and the Shaolin way. He made me green tea from scratch. And by the way, I had to hit camera. I got it all on film because I knew no one would believe me. So it was my greatest trip. And then training with the monks for a whole day. And the Shaolin monks were amazing. Just their lifestyle. Training all day, doing weapons all day, doing tumbling classes all day, eating nothing but rice and fish, drinking nothing but water and tea. Man, it was crazy. So I looked at all these different martial arts and I seen what makes them all so important is that it really strengthens you internally more than externally. You may be buff or bench a lot and all of that, but are you willing to punch your hand through a brick? Are you willing to kick that 2x4 with your shin? If you're not, that means physically you can't dig within. You can only do shit exteriorly. And the real art of martial arts is being a true warrior, a warrior in life and a warrior in spirit. Therefore, when I fought big guys, Frank, 60 pounds bigger than me, I wasn't scared. I wasn't flinching and turning and closing my eyes the way Ronda Rousey did with Holly Holm with throwing punches at her, because none of that shit mattered. You know, when you got something inside you, Frank, the world could be against you. It don't matter because it's inside you and no one can take that from you. And these are the things I learned from the martial arts philosophies. Think about crazy shit like the guys in Japan did World War II. They jumped in planes, whatever war it was. They jumped in planes, you know, the kamikazes. They had their funeral before they took off. They had a funeral because they knew they were fucking dying. You gotta be insane to be willing to put yourself through that type of activity. But that's what martial arts is about. It's not about your emotion or how you physically feel. It's about something within you that can never die, a flame that can never be blown out. And that's what I learned from all different martial arts. And we take all the Far East philosophies and we mold it into a Western fighting style. That's why we run the mountain, Frank. We run the mountain for two reasons. You know, Saturdays, I take the guys to the mountain every Saturday. We do that for two reasons. Just psychologically, to make you have to challenge yourself against elements that's been here millions of years before we were here. Because we could conquer that mountain, we could conquer any man. You know what I mean? And secondly, just to give you a change of philosophies. In America, we so Taibo, we so let's get it right now. Run that mountain, man. It's something you gotta do for years and years and years to truly evolve and get used to it. And it's you versus yourself. You don't got a coach. You don't have your pretty girlfriend sitting there watching you train. You don't got none of that. And that's what I learned from the Shaolin monks. Every morning, by the way, we bear crawl the stairs of the Shaolin Temple. It's about a mile from the bottom to the top. They bear crawl that cold ass stone, you know, stairway, hands and feet. And I don't know if you guys bear crawled before. I did like 400 meters and my back was locking up. I was in pain. I couldn't even finish the whole thing. I probably did like 600 meters of the bear crawl, but it was crazy. These guys bear crawled the whole mile like nothing. And when I seen that, I said, man, these guys have unlocked something much greater than the physical. And that's what I learned from all different martial arts, unlocking something greater than whatever you got right here. Francis Ngannou, Kevin Lee, whoever the hell you are, however strong you are here, we have to be stronger inside. And that's something that the Eastern martial arts definitely taught me.
Noah and I talk about this quite a bit, and the topic we're talking about is the intersection between that. We talk about the difference between, say, a martial artist and a fighter, right? You know, you have UFC. UFC had, I guess, at its zenith, 500 or so fighters under contract. And
Yes.
you look down the roster, you see a lot of tough guys, and you see fighters, right? It takes a lot of heart. Even the worst fighter in the UFC is courageous and making that walk and deserves respect, right? So, but there's a hierarchy. Then you have some fighters that are more living according to a certain code, or more of a traditional, like a more sophisticated code. There's a deeper code around it, rather than just, I'm trying to be the toughest, I'm trying to be the champion. There's a lot more spiritual depth. There's a lot more meaning. They're a lot more conscious and aware of their why, and we call more the martial artist. You know, someone who's more of an enlightened warrior, right? A more awakened. And so, how do you? Because you're tapping into it. You train with those monks. You got your daughter training with the Shaolin monks. You gave your daughter that beautiful name, Shaolin. How do you? Because a lot of people will see you, and what they'll say. This is what people would think.
Yeah.
First of all, this guy's incredible. This guy's got a great voice. He's very motivational. He's tough as can be. He's one of the most motivational people I've seen. He's kind of like a street, like almost like you know, you're almost like the hip hop version of a great coach in MMA. It's like this guy's like hip hop. But what they don't see is, when you look deeper, the stuff you just talked about, because you have an awareness. You have an awareness of deeper martial arts code. How do you, or do you try to work that into your fighters? Do you try to work that into their psyche, or is it okay if they're just an elite fighter? Is that okay? What's your view on that? Do you want to turn a fighter into a martial artist, or is that important, and how do you do it?
Well, I think the martial arts aspect is very important. However, if we're talking about mixed martial arts, I feel the fighting aspect is also very important. I'll give you a great example. And this is the biggest contrast I can think of as far as relevant fighters of today, relevant guys. We take Mike Perry. We take Khabib. Mike Perry's a fighter, right? He drinks, got chicks working his corner. He gives a fuck about the art. He just wants to fight. You got a guy, Khabib, tough as nails, trained as a kid, Dagestani, stoic personality. But what he created with his father was definitely the highest level of martial art. He started wrestling as a kid all the way up. His dad coached him. His dad gave him a system. He made him disciplined. He made him psychologically strong. That's how he's still undefeated. We've seen Khabib in bad situations where most guys would have broke. He didn't. That's the martial arts value. So I'll put it like this. The fighting value is more of a physical Western thing. And most of the time, that physical Western thing will get you through. We Americans, we conquer shit. It'll get you through. But at the moment where it's going to be something deeper than that, where it's going to be something needed a little more than what the hell you can physically do, that's where the martial arts comes from. That's from where you have to be willing to break that brick, even if you break your hand. That's when you got to be willing to throw that next kick, even if your leg's broken or your ACL's torn. And you're not going to get that just from being a raw dude. You have to be able to summon something deeper, something within you. And that's the secret element martial arts bring. The only difference here in America, I've done martial arts all over the world. I've trained in Croatia with the special forces guys. I trained in Russia. I trained in Kazakhstan. And of course, China, Japan, Thailand, and Cambodia, hell. And of course, the UK. The only difference that we're doing here in America is that we think everything is just about breaking the fence down. What's going to happen when you can't just break that fence down? You have to figure out ways to still get around that fence. You know what I mean? So in UFC, I like the fighter that I can make into more of a cerebral martial arts guy. Because in America, the martial arts has been so watered down for the most part. Guys are, hate to say this, but guys are more wimpy here. If you take straight black belts in America and take them to Brazil or Japan or China and have them go against other straight black belts, most of the time those other countries are gonna win because their martial arts isn't so watered down. They don't give out belts as fast as we do here in America, etc. So the martial arts here in America is different than the martial arts abroad. However, the real martial artists that really dedicate their lives to it and train hard, yes, you need that because the martial arts takes you deeper than what your physical abilities can take you. And we've seen every great fighter, whether it's boxing, MMA, kickboxing, or whatever, at some point have to go deeper than what was physically within them. And without that martial arts background, most guys fold. We've seen a lot of tough guys knock people out in the first round, and then they get hit or they can't knock them out. They end up quitting. And a real martial artist will never quit unless he's, knocked out or seriously injured. I'm not going to say names, but you guys know a boxer that everyone loves. Everyone recites their quotes, but we've seen him quit before in the ring. And it wasn't because he was physically beating, it was because he was mentally beating. And the martial arts aspect keeps you mentally strong. And you know who I'm talking about, the ear-biting situation, all that type of stuff. When you're not mentally strong, that's the spiritual soul, martial arts side of things. That's what gets that strong. The physical side of things is what gets your body, the exterior, strong. And you need them both for sure. I'd rather have a fighter that turned to a martial artist, though.
Yeah, you know Floyd Mayweather personally. I consider Floyd the best fighter of the last 30 years, I think. Yes. In some ways, I honestly think even though Floyd is inching close to a billionaire, right? He's going to be if he's not a billionaire, he's knocking on the door. I think it's brilliant. What he did business-wise, him and Al Heyman and Leonard Ellerbe, and even how they've been able to stay together. Because a lot of times there'll be infighting once the athlete starts making a lot of money, he starts saying, "Well, let me get rid of Leonard and Al because you're taking too much." But they've been able to do something special. And when you're talking about martial artist versus fighter, I'm gonna go on for a couple minutes here, and then I really want to hear your opinion on this, Dewey. But let's take. I saw the fight with Floyd versus. Let me just take the fight with Manny, right? And that fight had been a long time in the making, and people said that Floyd waited for Manny to slow down and whatever. But I personally believe Floyd would have beaten him at any point. He could have fought him 6-7 years older, and 6-7 years prior, and I think Floyd would have beat him then. I think Floyd is too smart, too good. But when I was watching the fight, and a lot of people thought the first 5 rounds weren't that exciting, but what I saw as an example of Floyd Mayweather, right? Because a lot of people said Floyd's too technical, right? Floyd knocked people out. When Floyd was fighting at 130, 135,
knocking everybody out.
Floyd was knocking dudes out when he was fighting at 130, 135. Then he's going up in weight, and he's being a little more careful, a little more cerebral, a little more tactical. But when when the trained eye watches Floyd, well, like, for instance, when I watched him fight Pacquiao, it's like, damn, he fought Pacquiao one way in round 1, another way in round 2, another way in round 3, another way in round 4, mixed it up, jambalaya, in round 5, mixed the whole thing up, and it's like, wait, you're fighting a legend. He's fighting Pacquiao, who's a legend, and he just fought him 5 different ways, and he's winning like 4 rounds to 1, 5 rounds to none, and you're watching, you're like, damn, this is a true master. Now the regular person sitting at home is thinking, I want my pay-per-view money back, but the person who understands how hard it is when you're in there with somebody that good, it's like, damn, he just did. Now, what I wanted to get to with Floyd, because he is brilliant. He is a master. And he's a master on different levels. On business, he takes care of the people close to him, right? He's very loyal to people close to him. He's been masterful in business and trusting Al Heyman and Leonard Ellaby. He's been masterful inside the ring. He stayed motivated. He stayed hungry. He stayed disciplined. Doesn't drink. Doesn't do the drugs. Didn't, you know. And anyway, what I wanted to see is your perception of his why, because of all the things I know he started young. I know he had Floyd Sr. and he had Roger, and I know he grew up doing it, but a lot of people could fall out of love with the art. This guy stayed as disciplined as they come. He kept getting better. And what do you, this is just your opinion, what do you perceive the greatness of Mayweather? What was the why that was fueling him to be so great?
Well, it was such a combination of so many things. First and foremost, the DNA genetics. You know, his uncle was a world champion. Let's see. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me now? Hello, hello. Can you hear me? It was a combination of things. His DNA. His dad was a boxer. His uncle was a multiple world champion boxer. His other uncle was a world champion boxer. So the bloodline thing, number one. Number two, Floyd was born with that competitive spirit. Floyd was the perfect model of what a fighter needs to be. It has to be at least second generation. He was a second generation fighter. He wasn't forced to do something. It was naturally in him. He loved to do it. And he stayed on the grind. He wasn't too cocky to where he felt like he couldn't be taught. He listened to his father, then he listened to his uncle, and he got better and better. He became an Olympian. He fought for the country. He won a medal. And all that just catapulted him to get more and more hungry. A mistake a lot of people make, especially, how can I put this? A mistake a lot of people make, I'll just leave it there. I was gonna say people from lower class communities, we wanna be rich so much. We wanna have all this glamour and stuff so much. Once you get it, you lose that insatiable hunger that you had before. Floyd, the more he got, the hungrier he got. I think that element of Floyd makes him the best, and not many guys will ever do what he did, because as famous as he became, as rich as he became, it made him more motivated, more inspired, more hungry. And that's why he's still doing it to this day. There's been greats. Ali is the greatest to me because what he stood for at a time where we needed a symbol like that. Roy Jones was probably the greatest when you look at body of work in their primes. But Floyd has doubled that with the things he does. And it's all because he never got lazy. He never got out of shape. He never turned to an alcoholic. He never did anything that would sacrifice him being greater. That motivation's crazy. Floyd told me years ago, he came to one of my fights at the Orleans, a boxing fight I had. He had made his first $10 million payday. He told me, I'm going to be making $200-300 million a fight. He told me that shit in like 2004, something like that. And of course I didn't say no. I just said, man, yeah, you can do anything. But in my mind, I don't think anyone thought that was possible. The highest paid boxer at the time was De La Hoya. Mike Tyson wasn't fighting at that moment. For a guy to tell you he's going to make 10 times more than what anyone makes is crazy. But he's seen it way back then. Floyd is the greatest because of his mentality, and he don't have that satisfaction button that we all have. Once you won all the awards and made all the money, stayed undefeated, sometimes we get complacent, sometimes we get satisfied, and Floyd's never done that. And that's why he can fight a YouTuber right now and make more money than anyone in the world fighting right now. That's crazy.
I think one thing that's masterful in terms of business, right? Because everybody just thinks of him, oh, he's just a great fighter. But part of the genius of Floyd, and I did a podcast on this, is a lot of people can have smart people around you, or just like you can have a great coach, but you might not be coachable. Coachability is a quality, right? Some fighters are smart, but they're not as coachable. And he was smart enough to bring people around him and to trust them and to be coachable and to be loyal to them. And so even if he wasn't the business mind, he was smart enough to recognize and to trust Al Heyman and to trust Leonard and say, I know that these guys know, and I'm smart enough to trust them, to build a relationship with them, to work through things, because things come up that are reasons to fracture the relationship. But the loyalty to work through things with them is how this man became a billionaire, almost by his instincts and his EQ, his coachability, his emotional intelligence to realize who really has my back, who's really looking out for me, who really cares about me, who's really giving me advice. And what he did with Bob Arum, and you know better than I do, but buying out the contract is one of the most genius business moves in the history of sports, not just fight sports, but in the history of sports. I mean, if I'm Bob Arum and I'm thinking, I mean, I'm imagining, I don't know what the amount was, but years ago when Floyd was still under Top Rank and Bob Arum, it was like, look, I mean, this is the way I hear the story. These are not all facts, but the way that I hear the story, this is the way it went down. Floyd is going to Bob Arum and saying, listen, I need to make more money. You're paying me, I'm making this number up, but you're paying me 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 million. I need 25 million. I'm making that number up. But he goes to him, he expects a big number, like a lot of athletes. Look, I'm a bigger draw. Bob Arum says, can't do it, Floyd. You're not drawing like that. People don't want to watch you. You're too technical. You're whatever that dialogue went like. And so then Floyd, in combination with Leonard Ellerbe and Al Heyman and whoever else in his ear, is like, listen, okay, Floyd keeps bugging him. Bob Arum's not budging. Floyd and them get with him and say, listen, we want to buy out the contract. And Arum gives them a number, whatever that number was, 20 million, 25 million. It wasn't anywhere near. So they go masterfully. They cut Bob Arum a check and they buy out Bob Arum. And now Floyd is a free agent. And now he's betting on himself and saying, listen, there's only been one other guy that cut out the middleman, De La Hoya. De La Hoya cut out the middleman. De La Hoya cut out the promoter and made a windfall, made crazy money. Which
was Bob Arum. Remember, that was Bob Arum also. De La Hoya cut out Bob Arum. He was with them also.
Yeah, so it's just interesting to see. And then, so Floyd is betting on himself at that point, right? There is a risk there because Bob Arum is one of the 2 biggest promoters in the world. Yeah. So you're taking a risk because there's only been one other guy that was able to do that, right? De La Hoya is the only guy. So statistically, buying out Bob Arum and betting on yourself, while it looks genius in hindsight, at the time it's like, well, damn, and only one dude's been able to pull that off, right? So, but Floyd does it. And Floyd's net worth now, how do you become a billionaire in fight sports? Again, highest paid athlete. He was I don't know in 2020 if he was, but for many years, when you looked at the Forbes highest paid athlete, the top of the list was Floyd Mayweather. Genius. I mean, just amazing.
Remember, like you said, Floyd hired Al Heyman, but people don't realize Al Heyman is a Harvard graduate. Al Heyman is brilliant. At the time, remember, Leonard Ellerbe used to be Floyd's conditioning coach. Way back in the days, Leonard was the physical trainer for Floyd Mayweather, and they just harnessed their relationship. It got more and more, and Floyd promoted Leonard as such. And Leonard's a great guy, by the way. Not a knock on Leonard, but yeah, Leonard came up in the box, learning the boxing with Floyd Mayweather. He was originally the fitness coach for Floyd Mayweather. Crazy. But see, like you said, Floyd stays loyal to the people with him, the people that he trusts. And to me, the most brilliant move he did, besides the genetics and being a great boxer, is trusting Al Heyman. Like you said, picking the right team and believing in them. You're right. That was big. That was big.
Yeah, his loyalty, he doesn't get enough credit because remember, Floyd's toned it down ever since he had his legal run-ins, and he's toned it down. You know, I loved watching him on, you know, I did a TEDx talk called A Big Ego Gets a Bad Rap, and I would love to watch him go on ESPN and argue with Brian Kenny, and, you know, he would, if you said anything, if Floyd thought, you know, and what's his name, Larry Merchant would take swipes at him, and I loved Floyd. Boy, Floyd was a firecracker, right? He was like, if you say anything less than I'm the greatest, I got a problem with you. And he would call you out on full blast. And his ego, you know, he was like Ali in that in his prime, you watched the pay-per-view because you were hoping he'd get beat up, not because he was so brilliant. You were hoping, can there be somebody to shut this guy's got too much swag, he's too full of himself. You were buying the pay-per-view hoping he would get beat up. And he almost kind of like Conor and Chael Sonnen, he realized that, and I think he even amplified it and turned it up because he realized that's making people pay attention, right? I'm on another planet. People aren't as interested when I just toy with these dudes. So let me, you know, he was more of a talker and whatever. But anyway, yeah, his loyalty. He's been criticized, you know, in the past because he was cocky, because he had legal run-ins, because of whatever. But there are masterful things about him on a loyalty level. A lot of fighters could look to him or lesson in loyalty, because that is part of the secret sauce of Floyd Mayweather. Now, we're winding down here. Tell me really quick, Dewey, the it factor. How do you know? You have a lot of fighters. You've worked with hundreds of fighters. How do you know when a fighter has it to be big league? Before they're famous, before they're fighting for titles, how can you tell that they got some of the stuff, they got the it that's going to take? What are you looking for?
Hold on one second. Let me turn this blind. It's killing me. There we go. I got blinds in my house and the sun's shining through. This is a good question. The it factor, I basically judge it on simple terms. The guy who's coming to the gym every day, the guy who works very hard, who pushes himself, the guy you have to tell, okay, that's enough, or don't go so hard. That guy, that's the it factor. We're in a landscape now where charisma and exterior factors factor in way too much. How cool you are, type of social media following you have, all these other things that's not necessarily has to do with fighting. So we're in a slippery slope ass era now where guys try to be too much socially and not enough in the grind. So I make sure, to me, the it factor is the guy who cares more about the grind than the social climate. I'm an old school dude that I truly believe hard work and dedication makes fight night the celebration. You have to work hard, put the work in, and everything will work itself out. Of course, if you're pretty or if you're witty, you'll get there faster than just a good fighter. But if you don't have the fight, at some point it's gonna get exposed. So the it factor to me is a guy who comes in there, works hard. I'll put him in situations where I know he's not gonna be successful, like I was 6'6", short drill, and he don't miss Tuesday because he don't want to get beat up. You know, all real coaches have some way of testing their guy to see if he really has the three components that a world champion needs. And we didn't talk about this, so I'll say those real quick. The three components, and we all got different philosophies, but I guarantee every coach is going to agree with this. The three components of what a fighter needs to be a world champion are a strong mind, big heart, and big balls. Gotta have all three if you want to be a legitimate world champion. Because if you got all three, no matter what situation you face, you're gonna do your best to get through that situation. So I look for the guys with those big heart, strong mind, big balls. Every coach puts his fighters in situations where those three components will be tested. We do it on Tuesday. It's called the 666 shark drill. And I'm not a devil worshiper or anything, but 666 sounds cool. And it's 3 6-minute rounds. You're doing 6-minute rounds 3 different times. But in that drill, you do a minute with a different guy. Every minute we switch the guy. So essentially you're sparring with 6 different dudes per round, 1 minute each. And these are the things I look for. The drill is designed for you not to be too successful in it. But I want to see the guy who's going to push through when he's tired. A guy gets hit hard or kicked hard or taken down hard, slammed to the canvas. Does he try to get up or does he just concede and let the guy lay on top of him? These are the intricate things that it takes to be a champion. So I look for those things. I put guys in hard situations to see how they're going to respond to it. And the guy who responds correctly, these are the elements I think it takes to be a champion. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors out there, Frank. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors, man. But when you put people through real tests and they exceed your expectation, that's when you know you got something special. And that's what I do. It starts with hard work and we go from there.
Couple more questions. You saw me train. A lot of people, think I'm soft. How was I as a worker? You came in there. I think you got to see me training.
No, you are a dog. You work. Guys, don't think Frank's just some, I don't know, reporter, philosophical, nice guy with deep conversation. He grinds. Frank is a real deal. He's a real martial artist. Been doing it for years too. So yeah, you work extremely hard. But I think our era was about guys working hard, and you got accolades from that. It wasn't getting accolades before you worked hard. And that's the slippery slope about this era. Some guys are getting accolades before they actually worked hard. And you put them in a hard situation and they fold, badly fold, like epic failure. And we all ridicule them and put memes up. When we should be ridiculing ourselves for inflating them to such a high standard that they never worked for in the first place. Everyone talks shit about Nate for getting knocked out by Jake on the Tyson fight. But Nate's a basketball player. He trained for 3 months for a boxing fight against Jake Paul, a guy who I was in the gym with and Seed trained for the last year, grinding, sparring real fighters and stuff like that. We all knew Jake was going to knock out Nate. But, that's the problem with this era we're in. We catapult these people to positions they don't deserve, and then we ridicule them and trash talk them when they fail. It's crazy to me. It's crazy.
What really?
That's the thing, man. We're in a great era, but we need to work more, animate less.
Yeah. Floyd versus Jake Paul? How does that go? I have my ideas. How do you see that?
No, it's Logan. It's Logan. He's gonna go against Logan.
Logan.
But either one, same thing. By the way, people talk about the size different. Floyd spars with 185ers, 170 pounders all the time. Jake, to me, is a much better fighter than Logan. But anyone against Floyd right now is not going to be successful because Floyd is the business. You know what I mean? He's not in the business. He is the business. And Floyd is too intelligent to ever put himself in a position where he's going to fail. Floyd's going to win the fight. It's going to be entertaining because that's what Floyd does. But there is no guy with no real experience, no real championship pedigree going to beat Floyd Mayweather unless they do it 6, 7, 10 years from now. It ain't happening this year. He still has it. And
yeah.
the experience alone. If we see the difference in experience from Stipe versus Francis the first time, you're gonna see the difference in experience from Floyd versus Logan.
Yeah, you know, he's going to be this is, you know, they say easy money, right? People say this easy money. This, when you say easy money, this might be the easiest money in history. This might be the easiest, whatever it winds up being, 150, 200 million. This might wind up being the easiest money a dude's ever made. I'm going to let Noah get it. I apologize, Noah. We've had our technical difficulties, and I know you've been patient. But one final thing I want to get into with Francis. I could talk to you all day, Dewey. Pick your brain. We'd love to have you on again. But in terms of Francis Ngannou's why, he's a sweetheart of a guy outside of the cage. What is the why that's fueling him? Because he is a specimen and he's a hard worker, but it's I don't have a firm sense of where he is mentally and what's driving him. What's driving this guy as a fighter?
It's funny you asked that question. Remember, you asked me about Mayweather. I said DNA, second generation, all these things. With Francis, same sort of thing. DNA. Francis grew up digging dirt his whole life to pay for his school books to go to elementary school. You know, we talked about this era being inflation before work. Well, Francis came from an era where you had to work or it was nothing. He had to work to go to school, man. I mean, how many of us, if we had to dig dirt to pay for our textbooks and pencils, would we have even went to school? I probably wouldn't have. I'm not gonna dig dirt to go to fucking elementary school. So Francis is different. He was, by doing all that hard manual labor at such a young age, is what made him super strong. He's crazy strong. But being confined in the village he was confined in, no one boxed, no one fought, no real technology like us spoiled Americans have. He dreamed. He had a real dream. And remember, we talked about aspiration turned to inspiration, which turned to motivation. That's exactly what happened to him. He seen the Mike Tyson video and said, wow, I want to be like this. He didn't start training until he was already, 23 years old? No, something like 26 years old. He was a grown man, digging dirt his whole life, working these village-type jobs. And one day he said, I'm sick of dreaming about this for the last 10 years. I'm going to do something about it. And he walked to a different country on foot, left his country, and went through all these travels to finally went to Morocco, all these weird places, finally get to France, and finally walk in the gym as a homeless dude and started his dream. What makes Francis different and his wow or his it thing was him not being afraid to put his life on the line to even start his dream. In America, we don't put our life on the line to start a dream. We got a coach around the block. We can talk to our auntie that got money in the suburbs and she'll pay Pop Warner to let us play football. He had to do it all his own, on his own. Parents couldn't give him money because what he wanted was such an outrageous thing to even fathom. There was no one in this country doing it. So why Francis Ngannou's gonna win that UFC championship and why he's gonna be a legend and all of that is because he had the DNA. The way he did manual labor made him physically strong, so it was a blessing that he wasn't he didn't grow up in some some suburban city where he didn't have to work that hard. It made him naturally strong. And his dreams, him imagining that I want to be a champion like Mike Tyson one day, made him leave on foot from his home and go through many countries to get to a different continent, to be homeless in France and to still keep the motivation for that dream. I think we really underestimate what motivates people. And him being a genetic freak with that type of mentality, not having any fear to step off that cliff and maybe possibly end your life is special. I don't know if I could have did it because, you know, I grew up with a YMCA around the block. My brothers boxed. My dad boxed in the military. Fighting was easy for me to get to. I don't know if I would be a fighter if I had to dig dirt my whole fucking childhood and then lead my family to go to a different country with no friends, no one to meet there, just to fight. So that's Francis. Wow, him having the intestinal fortitude to really put his life on the line, not to be ordinary or the normal guy in his village, and that's real strength right there.
You know, listening to you tell that story, I got emotional twice. I got emotional twice listening to this guy, how bad he wanted to be something else. He had a little vision. Where those little visions, you know, when you imagine the first time he watched a Tyson fight or something, you can imagine the guy, whatever village or whatever, he gets to watch somebody has a TV, he gets to watch Tyson. And you can imagine a young guy there like watching Tyson, and then boom. And then something changes in the guy's brain and it won't go away. And he says, I kind of see me in that equation. I got to watch this guy fight, and I don't know why, but something's going off in my brain. And then he's digging holes, and then it's like, well, wait, this little vision thing that I kind of have, this little spark is not going away. And then to get there, to get from where that vision is there, but then, like you said, to be brave enough, bold enough to walk away from everything you know, everybody you love, to walk into the unknown, to cross, you know, country boundaries and not know if they'll throw you in jail or they'll send you back or they'll beat you up, not knowing if you're going to have the hydration or the food to make it, not knowing where your next meal's coming from, and then to show up at a gym and then to actually get to where now you're in the conversation to rematch Miocic, and now you're within striking distance of everything. It's like, for all that to happen, for every step it's amazing that a man can actually go from just, I'm watching Mike Tyson on a TV, and then to go from that moment, that light bulb, to actually be there within striking distance in 2021 where he could get is amazing. And it's also amazing to me that Francis has retained that sweetheartness, that loving way, because a lot of people would become bitter by that process. You know, a lot of people will be bitter. So Dewey, can we get? You have a great voice. Can we get a little?
Hold up, Frank. Let me get in there real quick. I want to detour you real quick. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Because Dewey, I have a favor I need to ask of you, and you know, if you don't want to do it, that's fine. But I want you to think about it like this. I'm going to mute Frank. I'm going to get some quiet from his end for a second. I'm going to mute myself. All right. And I want, as part of your legacy, a part of your living legacy that's going to go out on YouTube, there will be fighters 20 years from today who will hear your voice. Okay. And I want you to imagine they're there on the bottom and they've got someone just beating them. And they are in the fight, or their life maybe, if it's on the street somewhere, if they hear your voice years from now, 50 years from now, we want to put this in history books. Would you just say something to answer that and to be there, and they will hear that, and if that's happening to them, they will hear your voice, they will hear your spirit from that moment. I'm going to mute, and if you want to do that, I'm going to mute Frank and let you speak. Does that sound like an idea?
Yes, sir. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to mute.
To everyone who's been through adversity, especially talking from the fighter's perspective, you can't dig and summon something that you haven't really worked to create. Be honest with yourself. work extremely hard as you can. Never take shortcuts. Never cheat yourself. And when those moments come, those difficult moments come, as long as you really prepared yourself, you can get through any situation. I truly believe hard work and dedication makes your fight night a celebration. And doesn't mean you're always going to win, but you will always be respected by your efforts. And that's all we can do. People are judgmental. They're going to judge us the way they want to judge us. But what matters the most is how you feel internally. We can lie to everyone else, but we cannot lie to ourselves. We know if we done the work that's needed. We know if we really worked hard, and we know if we're really dedicated to what we claim we're dedicated to. And if you are, there is no situation that are impossible. We see Muhammad Ali come back from adversity in the William Cooper fight. He was out on his feet. We seen him come back and win. We've seen guys like Arturo Gatti, bloody, busted, beaten, defeated, come back and win by KO. And in recent times, we seen Habib against Dustin Poirier. Looked like the fight was over. He's going to be choked out somehow, come back from that bleak moment of defeat. And Ali, Khabib, none of those guys are any more special than us. However, they worked harder than most of us. They dedicated their lives more than most of us, and they seek the benefits from that. If you quit, if you allow yourself to be conquered, that's something you'll never forget. It's not about a win or defeat. It's about how you're willing to work and push yourself beyond your physical abilities and push yourself to that moment to where you know you've given your all. And that's what it's about for me. That's what I tell all aspiring fighters. It's not about how you feel. It's about what you're willing to do. And always remember that. And I wish you the best. You all deserve to be great. Unfortunately, only few of you will be. But work hard and never let what the exterior static says about you define who you are. Only you can do that. And in my estimation, dedication, determination, discipline, devotion, desire, and drive will help you get there. And energy, effort, efficiency equals excellence. Always remember those few things, and you will be successful in what you do. Black Cobra, wish you the best. Black Cobra Striking Systems, Dewey Cooper. Thank you very much.
Noah.
Frank.
So Dewey, can you give us two things for your go? Can you give us a little everyman, like, hey, welcome, this is Everyman BJJ. I'm here with Frank Forza and Noah Green, or something like that. Can you give us a little? You got a great voice. You should be doing Hollywood voiceovers.
Frank Forza and Noah. Noah what? Well, what's the last name?
Green.
Noah Green. Okay. And it's every man's BJJ or not Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? I mean.
Sorry about that. Everyman BJJ.
Okay. Hey, what's up? This is Masters of Martial Arts Hall of Fame inductee Dewey Cooper. And I want y'all one more time.
It's all good.
God damn it. Everyman's BJJ.
You're on the spot. I know.
Noah Green. Do a BJJ podcast, right?
Absolutely.
Everyman BJJ podcast.
Hello, this is Dewey Black Cobra Cooper. I'm a two-time world champion kickboxer and 2008 Masters of Martial Arts Hall of Fame inductee. And you have been watching Everyman's BJJ with my man Frank Forza and Noah Green. Hey,
that was great. That was great.
I'm gonna kill it. I'm gonna kill it. One more time. I'm gonna kill it. I'm gonna kill it. One more time. God damn it.
This is good. It's good.
Let me get right. Okay, I'm ready.
You're in my corner.
Hey, what's up? This is Dewey Black Cobra Cooper, two-time world champion and 2008 Masters of Martial Arts Hall of Fame inductee. And you are listening to, you are tuned in, you are locked in to Everybody's BJJ with my man Frank Forza and Noah Green. Check them out.
That's good. Let's go with that. Now, Dewey, really quick, you started up your own gym. You and Bubba Jenkins, the
Yes,
NCAA wrestling champion, MMA fighter. You've
Yes,
got
sir.
your own gym. You've got your own podcast now. Let's promote
Yes.
that a little bit. Tell us real quick about how people can visit that gym if they're interested, where they can find that, and tell us about how they can watch your podcast.
Okay. Yeah. As you guys see right here, my shirt says Black Cobra MMA. On the back, it says Team Relentless. Collegiate Wrestling Hall of Famer Bubba Jenkins and I teamed up. We have a gym. It's called BK MMA Team Relentless. It's in Henderson, Nevada, at the Big Scary Gym. I partnered up with this great guy Rex, and we just made the new super gym here in Vegas. So check us out, Big Scary Gym or BK MMA Team Relentless. We're excited about it. Our grand opening actually is January 30th, okay? So we'll advertise that. We're excited about it and all of that. There's a new social media app called Zoo, TSU, stands for the Social Universe. They have live TV programming like a regular cable network within the social media platform called Zoo Live. And I have an hour show talking about fighting called Fight Night Talk with Dewey Cooper every Friday from 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. East Coast time. Check me out. I have awesome guests on there. I'm definitely going to have Frank and Noah on there too. Yeah, Zoo is the new app. It pays you for your post, so you can make some money back for the things you post, and you can keep your Facebooks, Instagrams, YouTube channels, everything you have. It's just an additional social media platform, but you can make money off of your posts. It's really innovative and brilliant way to post, and it's a new social media platform, so we have to stay hip. Everyone's on TikTok. We might as well get on Zoo also. So I have a show, Fight Night Talk, on Zoo Live. Thank you guys for having me. Hey, it's good kicking it with you, Frank. Man, you are an awesome guy. Noah, it's nice meeting you, my brother. I look forward to the future. Anytime you guys want to do an interview, especially when Francis or Kevin Lee or Keith Lee fight come up, I'll be happy to join you guys, and I'll try my best to get at least Keith Lee and Kevin on the podcast as well. Thank you guys so much. Today's playoff day. My Pittsburgh Steelers about to beat the Browns. I'm hyped as football.
My Baltimore Ravens got it done today, baby. We Baltimore Ravens. What's up?
I watched
it done.
I watched it. Hey, Frank, on that 4th and 2, and then the receiver got the penalty. I know you almost faded. That 4th and 2 at the end of that game, I know you almost faded.
You know, it was a happy day, man. Hey, it might be Pittsburgh and Ravens. It might. Well, no, I think we're going to KC because if Cleveland were to win, they would play KC. But if Cleveland,
you guys go to Buffalo,
we got to go to KC.
Yes.
So we can only see the Steelers. And by the way, I got mad respect because this reminds me of the fight game where the Steelers have made the Ravens a championship caliber organization. The Steelers forced them. The Steelers set the bar. The Steelers showed the Ravens how you do it. So the Ravens franchise would not be what it is without the Steelers doing their things and Titletown. And so anyway, I got mad respect for Steelers. Final thing, that Team Relentless, that promo you guys did is really good. I like it. That's for people out there watching, dig up that Team Relentless promo with Bubba Jenkins and you. That promo is very well done. So
thank you. And just know real fast, there's great gyms here in Vegas. And I respect them all. We're just an addition. If you want to come get some inspired training, guys who are really going to work you hard and really try to help catapult you to whatever level you want to get to, and we're out there, we're available for you.
Very, very high motivation area. You guys, Noah, great seeing you today, my Sunday. Happy Sunday. Dewey, thank you so much for a great interview. A lot of great jewels in there, and for making time for us. I really appreciate it. Busy guy. I really appreciate you doing.
Yep. And remember, I'm leaving for Abu Dhabi tonight. I'm leaving for Abu Dhabi for tonight. I have my fight at Dolce Champion fighting the 20th in Abu Dhabi. And I gotta take my daughter to basketball practice now. So thank you guys, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Dewey, thank you so much.
Okay,
Bye.
as always,
Bye, guys.
every man BJJ. We're here 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 Eastern, and I will see you next Sunday. Take